Hi kids, I'm going to talk about the materials and procedure for testing out projects 5, 6, 7, and 8. All of those projects involve ice and salt. Projects 5 and 6 are going to test different types of salt on the melting of ice and the temperature of ice as it's melting. And projects 7 and 8 are going to be testing out the amount of salt and the effect that it has on the melting temperature of ice. So let's start with the materials. Projects 5 and 6 are going to have 3 large styrofoam containers, ice, a measuring cup, a thermometer, a stopwatch, a strainer, and a 1,000 milliliter beaker. You're also going to have different types of salt: rock salt, table salt, and sea salt. Projects 7 and 8 are going to have 3 large styrofoam containers, ice, a measuring cup, a thermometer, a stopwatch, a large mesh strainer, and a 1,000 milliliter beaker. Projects 7 and 8 are only going to use rock salt, and you'll be varying the amount of rock salt added. Let's talk about the procedure. For the sake of making this easy for all the groups to understand, we're going to start with a trial using ½ a cup of rock salt. First, I'm going to make sure I have ice in my container. I'm going to fill my container with approximately 4 cups of ice. I'm going to take the temperature of the ice all by itself. Wait until the temperature stabilizes. Take a look and record the temperature in your notebook. It should be somewhere between 0 and 10 degrees Celsius. If it's not below 10 degrees Celsius, wait a minute and see if the thermometer goes down a little bit more. You might need to wait up to 20 or 30 seconds. Once the temperature is stabilized, record the temperature in your lab notebook. Take the thermometer out and we're ready to begin. Go ahead and measure out a ½ cup of rock salt. Now, it would be fastest if you do this with all 3 containers at the same time. So I would put 4 cups of ice in each container. And then, when your partner's ready, have them start the timer. Go ahead and add your ½ cup of rock salt to each container. We're going to record the temperature every minute for 5 minutes. You can use the thermometer to gently poke and mix some of the ice in. Don't mash the thermometer too hard. These are very expensive thermometers. Please treat them nicely. We're going to wait for a minute to go by, and while that's happening, I'll describe some of the other equipment. The purpose of the large mesh strainer and the beaker is to measure the amount of melted water created during this experiment. We're going to see if the amount of melted water has a relationship to the melting temperature of the ice, the type of salt used, or the amount of salt used. Let's see how much time has gone by. Oh, perfect. It's been a minute. Let's check the temperature. It's a good idea to try to get the thermometer down into the part of the ice that's melting. You should see the temperature drop lower than it was when you originally measured. Wait for it. All right, record the temperature in your notebook after 1 minute has passed. Take the thermometer out. You could give it a little stir again. And we're going to check it again when 2 minutes has passed. Then we'll check it again when 3 minutes have passed. Then we'll check it again when 4 minutes has passed. And after the 5th minute, we're going to go ahead and see how much ice has melted. Now, it hasn't been 5 minutes, so probably not very much ice has melted. But imagine you're doing this after waiting for 5 minutes. You're going to stop the timer, go ahead, make sure that you've had all the temperatures recorded during that 5 minutes. and pour the salty ice into the strainer. The melt water should fall into the beaker, and you can measure the volume by looking at eye level at the meniscus of the water in the beaker. Now let's talk about repeating this experiment. If you're in projects 5 and 6, you're going to be varying the type of salt. You're going to start all over again with these 3 containers. Please rinse them in between each trial. You'll get your 3 containers. You'll put 4 cups in each container, and then you will try different types of salt. A half cup each of table salt, a half cup each of sea salt. So that should be a total of 9 trials. 3 with rock salt, 3 with table salt, and 3 with sea salt. You'll follow the same procedure for each trial, just repeating it with different types of salt. For projects 6 and 7, for projects 7 and 8, you're going to go ahead and repeat the same procedure. You're going to do 1 trial with no salt at all. So you'll fill up the 3 containers with 4 cups of ice each, and you'll be measuring the temperature over the course of 5 minutes. You'll still be, at the end of 5 minutes, pouring the ice into the mesh strainer and measuring the volume of melt water. There just won't be any salt. Then you're going to run another trial with using an entire whole cup, 1 cup of rock salt in each of the containers, measuring the temperature every minute for 5 minutes. When the 5 minutes is over, you will measure the volume of melt water from each container separately.